Oh, good. All right. We should be up and running. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the UGASPORTS Live podcast. I'm your host, Roddy Nabulsi, joined by my co-hosts, Jake Roos, and Hall of Fame coach Jim Donnan, former head coach of the Georgia Bulldogs. The reason everyone is tuned in is to catch him, see what he has to say this week. We are brought to you by Athens Ford, Aaron Overhead Doors, Your Pie, Academia Brewing Company, Cable East, 365 Game Day, and Champy's on Baxter Street, where we're sitting right now. We are here at Champy's on a nice weather Tuesday.
It's really not bad for for January.
Yeah, 50-something degrees. We have a plate of fried chicken livers in front of us. That's what was put over here by me because I enjoy them the most. And then the sausage, cheese, and pickle plate down there by Coach Donnan and Jake Roos, which means by the time the show is over, I'm going to be out of luck. But that's okay. You can always order more. So when you get a chance, swing by Champy's. Great place to watch the Super Bowl. Coach, who you got in the Super Bowl this weekend?
You know, it's still up for grabs for me. I think got some ties to both teams. But, with Miko playing and Andy Reid, who's a really good friend of mine, I'm probably going to go with the Chiefs. But I don't know how they're going to stop that running game of the 49ers. And the only thing that could help us is maybe if Shanahan won't call the run. And I think he might have learned his lesson on that. But both teams very well coached and should be a heck of a game.
So I'm going to have to go with Mecole just because it's our guy that you got to love the idea that when Mecole Hardman announced he's going to the NFL, a lot of people, he's not ready.
Boy, he really
Pro Bowl guy.
He switched that up quick, didn't he?
Yeah, he changed it up really good.
That's incredible still that people could not recognize that. But most people understand that just an unbelievable quickness and speed talent guy that they're really doing a good job with him.
Yeah, love what he's doing there. So best of luck to him. And
so you're rooting for the Chiefs, huh?
Rooting for Mecole.
Well, that makes sense.
Again,
I love me some Pat Mahomes, and really the biggest thing for me, I'm just excited Tom Brady's not there.
there you go.
I'm a hater.
You don't like Brady?
I'm just tired of seeing the same thing every year. You know what I'm saying? Like
I want some, just hurts me. It crushes me.
I want some variance.
He could bust me on anything, but goodness. Well, I can
like Tom. I
can understand not wanting them to be in it, but
yeah. I'm ready to see a change.
You're just jealous of that hairline. That's all right.
Oh, damn. We're gonna do that all day.
All day. The entire show.
People in glass houses, by the way.
I accepted my glass out a long time ago. I shattered those windows to let the breeze through, man. My hair wasn't blocking it. All right, we're going to jump right into the show. We got a lot to talk about, but again, I want to thank Champions for letting us be here. Thanks Athens Ford for sponsoring us, and of course, I'm going to talk a little bit later in the show about Your Pie, the fact that they have a keto-friendly crust now. So, yeah, you don't want to miss that. So, where are we at, Jake? I know people want to hear from Coach Donnan, but it seems to me there's a very big recruiting weekend this past weekend, and you were, 8 days away from signing day?
Yeah, National Signing Day.
You had a hot board up Monday.
Mm-hmm.
Who's hot, who's not, where Georgia's warm, Georgia's cool, all this other stuff. Give me a view from 30,000 feet of where the signing class is. What can we expect next Wednesday?
All right, so
that's, to me, is the most pressing thing. We can talk about some of the coaching changes. We can talk about some of the players, but I want to know.
And we will.
Yeah.
I think the big thing to remember for next week, too, if you're looking ahead, is it's about numbers at this point. So Georgia, we've kind of stood by this. I think 3 more is the number for this class. I think they can take 3 more in this class. How they end up filling those spots is going to be very interesting. I know a lot of people already asking about Zack Evans over here on the questions, and
this is your fault.
I know. Look, and I get it. I understand why people have those questions, but you've got the 3 spot. You had DJ Lundy up this past weekend from Irwin County.
Before you get there,
okay,
you say 3 spots.
3 spots.
Does this include the 2 2 offensive linemen that are already committed to Georgia?
You can take 3 in addition to those guys. So you got 21 current commits.
Do you ever read the site?
Some of our viewers don't.
You got 21 current commits with Broderick Jones and Cedric Van Pran committed. You can take 3 more guys to get to 24.
Please tell
All right,
me.
come on. There we go.
3 more to get to 24.
Okay.
And then I think that you're probably going to end up with a blue shirt situation for Jared Zirkle. the kicker.
All right, so what does that
to
mean?
bend the numbers. So that means that his scholarship, essentially, he will be able to show up. He'll be able to show up in August, practice with the team, and go through all that. But his scholarship will count toward the next class. So he'll be 2021
So he basically,
class.
the first class, he's kind of almost like a preferred walk-on when
Yeah.
he arrives?
Yeah, essentially, I think, from a scholarship standpoint. So it's, and again, this is
numbers massaging.
very much so. And we've said this time and time again. I give those guys a lot of credit over at UGA because
Creative.
They have done a great job of massaging the numbers. They know how to make things work. I didn't know what a blue shirt was until 2 years ago. Plumlee was the guy who kind of introduced me to the term, gray shirts, and they've figured out every advantage that you can take.
And I think something that's added to that is the fact guys coming out early, declaring for the draft, the transfer portal, the early signing date. All three of these are just really significant to roster management, and Kirby has been a complete master of that to this point. And you add the graduate transfers, which we have 2 now that will count on our 2021 class. And the previous class, the reason we have what we have here is because Cager and Wolf counted against last year's, right?
That is correct, yes. So I credit, there's a guy on our board. I keep up with this as much as I can, but I credit this guy, Nostalgia 80, over at the board. He does a great job of keeping up with it. And really one of the perks of being at UGASports.com is that you've got guys like him who that's like their obsession, and that's what he works with all the time. He's always been in numbers. And he's got it down to a science more than anybody on our staff that I've seen. So big shout out to Nostalgia. He does a great job. But
you need to come over someday and show your face, Nostalgia.
He does. He needs to. I would love. I would love.
Also keeps up with the walk-ons, preferred walk-ons. And stuff
Guy's
like
a
that.
monster. He really is.
And that's critical. I mean, it seems like we're doing a good job in that resort too. Because when I do go to practice, I marvel at some of the skill level that some of our non-scholarship athletes are performing at. Just the fact that their development over the strength program and the running and the nutrition and everything, easily they could have been playing at a lesser level, on scholarship. But to come here is kind of a lifelong dream, and hopefully, get in some games and have a chance to help the squad. But these guys are huge on practice preparation, particularly as many reps as we do in practice, where you got to have fresh guys out there all the time. So kudos to staff management, roster management on the preferred walk-ons we're getting too.
Absolutely.
We got one last night.
2 last night, actually.
2 last night.
Yeah. You got 2 last night. Weston Wallace out of the Gatewood School, which is down around Eatonton, Georgia. 6'6", 325,
big.
massive kid.
He was actually going to Colorado State, right?
He was, yes, yep.
I read a couple things.
And then Miles Johnson, who big shout out to my guy Miles. Super happy for you, buddy. Congratulations.
Where's he from?
He is from Blue Ridge, Georgia, baby. I'm loving it. I'm loving
Did
That's
you
my
go to school?
hometown. He is a Fannin
We
County
know
Rebel.
nothing good
What a
has ever
homer.
come out of
A
Burch.
Fannin County Rebel. I can't believe we're getting to talk about a Fannin County Rebel.
The thing about that kid, though, was last year you sent me a text and said, hey, are we aware of that guy? And I sent something over there to a couple guys, and hopefully that got it started on. At least we got him here, and you're gonna have to bring him over here to Champies.
Yeah. I don't know. They better batten down the hatches for Big Miles. But
how big is Miles?
Miles is about 6'6", about 310, 315 right now, I think, and got a lot of room for improvement in his game. Really hard worker, great student.
Great.
Good kid. So, very excited
Wallace
for him.
was committed to Colorado State, so he's a 3-star who could have gone full scholarship.
That's true.
But has decided to walk on.
Well,
be a preferred walk on at UGA.
After the transition with Steve Adazio heading out to Colorado State after Mike Bobo, he said, he told our Paul Meharry, you can go read that story over there. He said, basically, I just didn't have the same level of comfort with those guys. I wanted to open things up, and as you said, it was a lifelong dream for him to get to come to Georgia. So, big pickups there. Going back though to last weekend, A lot of action, a lot of big visitors. Broderick Jones was in town. Cedric Van Pran was in town. You had Austin Blasky in town. Tate Ratledge was in town.
Another signee.
Another signee, yes. DJ Lundy out of Irwin County, a 3-star athlete who's going to end up deciding between Georgia, Virginia Tech looks like the other option right now for him. And he's actually on his way out today. Safe travels, by the way, DJ, to UCLA. So safe travels out there.
Good luck in your interview.
We'll see. If a kid from Ocilla ends up in Los Angeles, I think that would be a country mouse in the big city a little bit. But no, I hope he has a great time. He was great in the interview he did with us the other day, too.
I can tell you this. Of all the schools, I used to talk about, Florida had all this advantage in-state recruits and all that, the weather and all. But the one place that just blew my mind that kids went to UCLA, I don't know what it is out there, if they take them to Hollywood or what, but I've lost some guys on the last day to those guys. I know of at least 3.
You ever walk down Ventura Boulevard?
I've been there, man. But I'm just telling you, I've lost
the
3.
Scenery ain't bad.
I've lost 3 kids at UCLA, and
who were they?
Well, I lost a kid in Missouri to them, and it was a good tight end. And I never will forget. It's a quick recruiting story. His mother was an older lady. I mean, this kid came along late in their marriage. And, you always have kids over for dessert, and then the parents stay and the kids go out. And I was asking one of my other older coaches, I was a younger guy then, back before I was 74, getting ready to be 75.
On your last show.
And you made it. Yeah.
And I got one more day. And so I asked him, I said, Clay, you think I should offer this lady something to drink? I said, I don't want to offend her. I said, we got a good shot at him. And I said, I don't know what to say. And he said, just kind of just gradually just say, look, sometimes some people have a drink. Would you like something? And she said, so I said, ma'am, she said, I want some Jack and water, but not much water.
You didn't have to twist her arm too hard, huh?
We'll forget that. But her son went there, and then, of course, we had Troy Aikman transfer out there.
True.
And had one other kid from that I was recruiting when I was at OU from over in Florida, actually, that went out there, and we lost him. So, but, we've got a lot of them, too. But UCLA's got – but right now, I wouldn't think they have a lot going for them.
It's really tough.
Except roster management. I think I saw where they have like 14 guys in the transfer portal.
Yeah.
And did you see the other thing about their athletic association being like $18 million in the red this year? And one of the things they talked about was they spent over $4 million more on food the first year with this guy than they did with Mora.
Wow, really?
Chip Kelly. And that's a lot of money.
No question.
People don't want to hear that.
No, I mean, $4 million more on food.
Yeah.
So they really
all
weren't,
sushi from.
They weren't giving those kids much to eat. But I think a lot of us have spent more now when they went to that new rule. Where you have unlimited food.
Sure.
So.
Yeah, and I mean, there's always going to be a changeover in nutrition programs, et cetera.
And I tell you one
coming
thing,
from the
want to get inside scoop. That I think Kirby's done a really good job. This Perno ladies come in and does a good job. But one thing Kirby does on the weekend, because kids eat everywhere, all week they eat on the training table and they grab and go and all that. But they've got a card that they call a red card that they can use on Saturday and Sunday and go and get the allotment for food that the athletic associate that they can take to any certain places in town and go in there and use that.
Really?
So that really gives them a little bit of
a little flexibility,
chance to go out to some different places. And I thought that was a brilliant move. Did you know that, Ronnie?
I did not.
Okay, that's why you listen to you, Jay.
Read the site.
I say if I read our site, I should be up to date. It'd be pretty.
But I thought that's pretty slick.
That is good.
All right, 2 more visitors to talk about from last weekend. That's Duron Branch out of Amite, Louisiana. Ole Miss commit, 3-star guy. Came in a bit of a surprise late kind of find there for Georgia. was, I think, at one point committed to Miami, now an Ole Miss guy, but having spoken to our Sam Spiegelman, who covers Louisiana and Texas for Rivals.com, said essentially consider Branch a guy who's a free agent right now, even though he's committed because of the Matt Luke turnover. He's a guy who's probably taken a big step back.
And you never know in that situation, too. I'll add that
Sure.
with the new coach, what's their situation with the coach? How much does the new coach want to do? I mean, what does Kiffin want to do, too? So it's great for us to have Luke with these guys. But go on and tell us about him.
Well, so Duron Branch, some of his recruitment, though, it seems is going to hinge around a guy that we broke the news on coming last week. That's Charles Bell VI. Out of Quince Orchard in Gaithersburg, Maryland. This is a guy that got in this weekend. Georgia likes him at the safety spot. Real kind of touch and go as far as, the offer situation there right now. Not very clear exactly what went down in that regard. Maybe it's him taking his time. Maybe it's Georgia taking their time, evaluating a little further, figuring it out. I think you end up with one of those two guys in your class, though. So Branch
he decommitted to Syracuse, right?
That's true, yes. Charles Bell at one time a Syracuse commit. And I caution people, they say, 3-star, big deal. Go watch the film on this kid. He will straight up hit you.
Yeah, I'd never heard of the guy that you came out with it, and I went right on the huddle and looked at him, and
he will hit you.
Hey, and he's explosive. He can play offense too.
Yep.
Any place I ever coached, I would take that guy off the tape. Now I haven't seen him live or watched him, but he's a flat out take. If he didn't even have a star, I would take the guy.
And then you mentioned, his versatility kind of on both sides of the ball. That's where a guy like DJ Lundy really kind of strikes me as an interesting prospect headed into this, because is Georgia going to end up taking a second back in this class? We get a lot of questions, obviously, about Zack Evans. There's been rumors he's going to visit this weekend. We'll see. That's all I can tell you. I'm not going to bet on it. You can if you want, but I'm not going to put my money down on that. We'll just see.
That would be a second official. That would be a second visit, though. He'd have to pay his way, right?
Yes, that's correct. You've got additionally, you've got Bayesian Edwards, who we've talked about a lot here on the show, a guy that Georgia's been considering for a long time out of Colquitt County.
Well, you've talked about it more than anybody else.
Well,
so what's the story there?
So with Bayesian, it's I think what it has largely boiled down to is a grades situation. A test score, really, I think is what he's waiting on. And I think the big thing for Georgia, though, is by the time he gets that sorted out, will they still have a spot? I question that. I question the availability of a spot by the time that all gets sorted out. That's where Lundy comes in, because Georgia's recruiting him for the inside linebacker position, but has spoken to him about working in some short yardage, working in formations. He's a guy who plays some running back down there at Irwin County and does a great job with it. 6'1", 230 pounds. A guy who can flat out knock you in the teeth, you know what I'm saying? So he's really interested, and I think Georgia is in really good standing with him as well.
Is that basically your take router?
Yeah, that's a catch-all take, though.
I could see that, yeah.
That's right.
Yep.
Because if there is an up-in-the-air situation where they take another back, you kind of get it, if you would get that situation where you had an emergency, he could do that. But he can play a lot of special teams.
Yes.
And, you got two guys like that for sure, in Arian Smith and this guy that could play either side. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Arian Smith, tremendous speed, quickness, can be a slot receiver, could play, if he needed to, could play in the secondary. But I don't see him doing that. But, it's just a case of great roster management. And, when you're doing like we are, along with other top 10 recruiting classes around the country, it becomes a case of who takes who, and ultimately gets down to what Kirby feels like the needs are, because every coach is going there, coach, I need this guy, but down at the end, it's got to be his decision on. And it's tough because you got guys that want to come and you can't take them.
Sure, absolutely.
I go down the roster and I think of the guys that have played both sides. You look at the Notori Johnsons, the Tay Crowders, the Mark Webbs, guys who
Walter Grant did a little bit of it.
Yeah, guys that cross-train offense, defense, taking the best players. This has always been my question, though, Coach, on that. It seems like it's the smartest move you can make, a guy that can fill multiple spots. But is it better to take the best running back or the best linebacker over a guy who's good at both but not great? So what is the trade-off and what is the philosophy there?
I think it gets to be a lot like the pro draft where you get to a situation where, you have a need on your team, but you have a best available player.
Okay.
So is this the best available player that you would take no matter what compared to a need on your team? Like last year, we let that Elam guy go. Wasn't that his name? Kair
out of they went to Florida.
Yeah, I mean, there's no question that he went to Florida, but in my mind, I thought we had the guy, and I think in the end, we just couldn't take him. Now that might be wrong, but at the same time, it might be right. So, I just think that's what you got to look at, and you got to make that decision. And over the years, I mean, it's just been heartbreaking for me to know that you're going to lose a guy that could have played for you that's going to go play with your opponent because of certain situation. I know they have some deals up with NCAA right now, which I think would be good, that they would have a 50 cap over 2 years, instead of a 25 each year.
I like that.
Where they'd put a 50 cap over 2 years where, let's just say you got to a situation where we had 25, but we had 2 more that wanted to come that you really felt good about that were great players. So take 27 this year with the idea, hey, we're just going to have to take 23 next year.
I love
kind
that.
of for that blue shirt thing, too.
I love that idea primarily because, some classes are a lot stronger than others. I mean, that's just
Roddy would have told you that if he'd been reading NCAA site.
Yeah, I did come up with saw a new NCAA rule that says you get 56 official visits. Normally, you start counting those August 1st. They've moved that back to April 1st now. So now in April, you can actually start having guys come in on official visits. So throughout the year. So that moves it up. So I did learn one little rule, but I like the idea of the 50 over 2 years because, like you just mentioned, UCLA, 14 kids in the transfer portal? You get a new coach come in. Sometimes that coach needs 33 kids just to fill out his roster. So,
and I think that's the major thing they want to do is help the teams that really need some, a new coach and got a chance to build up. I mean, everybody can't do like UAB did when they just gave them that one-time deal that, hey, just bring as many as you can. And I think they brought over 60 guys in, when they dropped football and then they started back again.
But I think it would be a good idea to have that.
I want to touch on one more guy, and that's Lad Mcconkey.
Well, got to talk about
a lot of people have asked about him. Lad Mcconkey out of Chatsworth, Georgia, 3-star wide receivers. We got him at 6 foot 180. I think we may be being a little generous at 6 foot. But listen, height's not the issue here. That's not what you get this kid for. Playmaker, and has said, basically when Kirby, Smart, Charlton Warren sat down in his house, said, look, you're the kind of guy we're looking for to build this roster around. You're solid on academics, great athlete, a guy we're not going to have to worry about getting a class. This is the kind of people we want inside of our program.
High character, high skills.
He's running 4.5.
Yeah.
And I watched the tape on him, and good skill level and very good hands, runs good routes. And, with Blaylock being up in the air, which, I'm sure he's going to be okay, but, you got to hope that he's going to be all right. Robertson's is going to be a senior, so you got to fortify. You got Arian Smith coming in, but Rosemary, those guys. But another case of an in-state player that got great character, good grades, everything about him. And, I think everybody seems to look too much at what people are ranked and not enough confidence. I mean, I wouldn't say confidence, but just let the coach pick out who he wants.
I like that recruiting that area for Georgia. You just don't, that's an under-recruited area in my opinion, just by everybody. But you get an Adam Anderson out of Rome. Rome's sort of the end of it between there and Chattanooga, but there's a lot of distance in between those two. So Dalton, shout out to Jameer Gibbs, good player
ball
up there.
Players up there.
But Ladd went to Tennessee this past weekend. That was the school he grew up rooting for. I didn't see word that an offer came down, so we'll have to see how that goes for him. But even if it does, I'll tell you this: I still feel good about Georgia's chances with Ladd Mcconkey.
I love a kid like that. When you go and Coach Donnan knows I am the worst scout out there. I can't look at a kid and tell you who's good or not. But when I watch this kid run routes and he hits the brakes, he stops, the DB keeps going. And I always go back to, talking to some of the guys in the NFL, and they're like, look, you got to be able to stop. You got to have breaks. And when a kid like that, if his job in that slot is to get open, get some separation, when he fakes inside and goes outside and the guy's still taking a half step and his acceleration out of that stop is fantastic. So if you want a guy that can get open, go watch a tape on this kid, and you'll be wondering, why didn't we offer him earlier?
Absolutely.
So pretty impressive with
point.
that. So that's a pretty good breakdown of where they're at with 21.
Yeah, and I mean, we could get into Zack Evans, but I'd be lying to tell you I knew.
No. We'll touch on him when we come back. But before we get to that, I want to talk about our friends out at Athens Ford. I don't say this enough on the show, and I really should. Athens Ford is the #1 Ford certified pre-owned dealer in Georgia. So let's say you want one of those Fords, and you want a good one. Go to Athens Ford and get their the certified pre-owned. That's what I got. They go through it with a fine-tooth comb. They check everything in it. It looks fantastic. It's basically their stamp of approval saying everything on it. No matter who owned it beforehand, this thing is in perfect shape when you take it off the lot. And there's nobody who sells more of those who does a better job with it than Athens Ford. So if you're in Atlanta, you're in North Georgia, even you're up in Rome, come on down to Athens and get it here. South Georgia, drive up. It's worth it because they sell more of those certified pre-owned than anybody else. If you look at the ratings, we talk about ratings, 3-star, 4-star, 5-star. From Cars.com, Athens Ford has a 4.7 rating. From Google, like 4.5. From Dealer Rater, 4.9. The guys are through the roof when it comes to ratings because they take fantastic care of you, and they have the lifetime warranty on the powertrain. So any new vehicle, of course, the certified pre-owned, and any pre-owned vehicle under 80,000 miles will have the lifetime powertrain warranty on it. You can't get that anywhere else. So when you get a chance, check out with our friends at Athens Ford. Now, I guess you probably need a couple of those nice new Fords if you want to get the latest on Evans.
Oh Lord, yeah, we've been talking about this for almost a year now. I guess it feels like this kid. Clearly one of the best running backs in the nation. No question about that. 5-star guy all the way through. What's going to happen now? Like I said, Tennessee got the visit this past weekend.
You had that in your war room.
Tennessee got the visit. What can I say?
Well, I'm just saying nobody else is talking about that, but you put that in your war room. You
Tennessee, with that official visit, very interesting visit because Tennessee, that's not a school you've heard a lot about throughout his recruitment, but that's just how things roll in this one. Ole Miss feels pretty good about it. I'm looking really hard now at Texas A&M now that you've got the addition of James Coley and Marshall Malco from the Georgia staff. Those guys, two familiar faces, obviously an in-state connection there. I could see that going their way. And we'll talk about those guys, too. Definitely get to that today.
Might be visiting Southern Cal this week.
It's possible he'll be visiting Southern Cal this week or Georgia or who knows, okay? So, listen. I said this in the war room, and I maintained it yesterday. I think I'm going to stick with it throughout. Once I'm going to steal something that somebody on our board said because I said look for the kid to show up on a roster. That's when you'll know. And the guy on our board said, I'm waiting for that kid to enter a game at somewhere. He said, I could see him standing on the sidelines in a uniform, and I wouldn't believe it.
No, because then you get the transfer portal, so you never know how this is going to work out.
Ronnie Brown asks about Evans, though. He says, does Zack Evans make your Mount Rushmore for wildest recruitments of all time?
No, not too bad. I mean, the kid. I think the situation with Evans is he told a lot of people what they want to hear.
Yeah.
So let's see a little inside baseball stuff here. The kid goes and visits School A. Tells School A, I love it. I'd love to play here. The coach turns to his staff and lets him know, hey, here's what the kid said about it. He said he'd love to play here. That gets out to a booster who gives it to a journalist who reports, who puts in a future cast for the kid to play at School A because the kid said, I would love to play here. It sounds like he's coming. Kid says the same thing to School B,
sure.
School C. Everyone feels good about it. Then you have some going on. what would put it on the Mount Rushmore of craziest UGA recruiting stories is the fact that he actually signed an LOI. And
Yes.
all we ever talk about is nothing counts until there is a signature. There was a signature.
Yes.
And Georgia turned it down. So that puts it as one of the craziest. The people, all the speculation doesn't do anything for me because we've had crazy speculation before. Nothing will top the Roquan Smith one. That's just,
No, though, that's the thing. Roquan's was not really that. It wasn't like super drama filled. It was for that one day, and that was it. And that was the whole thing. He went through the whole process.
But
There's another UCLA.
You're right.
We've lost him to UCLA.
But having the coach,
and their coach leaves.
Yeah, having the coach leave to come to the Atlanta Falcons, that threw it for a loop. But I think with the Evans thing, you have a situation where he told a lot of people what he wanted to hear, and I've maintained. I was joking about it last week because I think Georgia moved on.
It's just a case of you got to look at how somebody's going to blend in. Is he going to do what you tell him? And that doesn't necessarily mean Zach or anybody, but just the fact that we didn't turn in his LOI makes me feel like there's got to be a lot of things that he didn't do that we wanted him to do. And, we had some issues there. The guy missed a state championship game because he wouldn't turn his cell phone in or something, wasn't it? Whatever.
That was the report.
That's the little thing. But, hey, I'm not going to sit here and talk about this kid because I don't know enough about why we didn't turn it in.
I'll say this.
But I know we had the master on him, and Dale knows who he wants and who he doesn't.
I will say this, too. I think that it was not – I don't think it was a shot at Evans in any way, but I thought what Kirby Smart and those guys said to Lad Mcconkey about you're the kind of guy we want. You're the kind of, we need this. We need this. I thought that kind of gave an indication of where they kind of felt like things stood moving forward with the guys they want to take in this class.
You're taking
my opinion.
You're taking a given there instead of a hypothesis.
Yes.
No, and I know a lot of people say,
the wrong word.
No, I get it, but a lot of people say, well, look, for a talent like that, you take your chances. Coach, you recruited some guys who were I won't say of questionable character, but you didn't know exactly what you were getting. You didn't know how they transition from high school, small town, to being on a college campus, not having that supervision was going to handle it. Some guys did a great job. Some guys didn't. It's the same with Coach Richt. He brought in some guys who were questionable, and they turned out fine. Some guys that you thought were great turned out to have problems.
You're not going to win the SEC with a bunch of choir boys either.
Thank you.
I like choir boys, but you can't have the whole. You can't have the whole ensemble. You got to have somebody playing the drums. That's just the way it is.
Best way I've ever heard it put.
I really like it.
But there's a lot of tough kids that go to church and everything. I said the wrong thing there, but
no, you're right. It's
you just got different. You got to remember that everybody that comes in here, and I always talk to our players, and I know Kirby does too. Every coach, you got to understand what makes that guy tick and the environment that he comes from, compared to what you were brought up. You had mom and dad. You had somebody telling you what to do. This guy grew up in every day self-survival for him. He was living in the. In a bad situation there. So everybody, that's where so much of the leadership on our team helps develop some of these guys, that all they need is somebody to help them show the way of how to go. And sometimes you think it's worth it to bring them in and get in that culture, and sometimes you don't.
Yeah.
That's about as good as I can say it.
No, I think he's right. I like your point about Del McGee. Del McGee is a master when it comes to running backs. They had the signed LOI. They could have brought the kid in. If Del McGee didn't stand on a table and demand that they turn that LOI in, that tells me Georgia moved on. Now, people say, oh, well, maybe they, did this. Now the kid has to do what he's supposed to do. They give him a list of things to do. He checks off all the boxes and then comes back. Yes, that happens. We saw that with George Pickens. George Pickens shows up before the first day of practice. He loses his jersey number and his locker. Not just the jersey, because he's wearing 83. We're out there looking for number 1, and it's like, who's that?
Who the hell is 83? My God.
That guy looks fantastic, but hey, and we saved a bunch of journalists from reporting something stupid, i.e. that George Pickens was not at practice, by saying, no, he's number 83. So you're welcome. But the guy lost his locker. So you have some of that, hey, here's what you got to do to be a part of this team. So you have that corrective action. I know the stuff I did in college, I needed to be corrected many, many times.
Oh, boy, yeah.
Shut up. But point being, so that does happen where you basically tell a guy, you kind of dress him down. And sometimes it's public. Kirby Smart is very good at saying, this guy needs to step up in a press conference. And guess what? They do. I mean, he dressed down Tyler Simmons pretty bad one time, and then following press conference said he didn't do what he was supposed to. After that, Tyler Simmons was all over the place, did a great job. So I could see a situation, let me finish this up, where he comes back to, hey, you didn't do what we expected you to do. Now maybe Evans has done it. Now maybe he's back in it. I just don't think so. I just think it's a situation where they have moved on to someone else.
We'll
you look at all these offers they have.
Yeah.
But again, to your point, if he showed up tomorrow.
Would it surprise you?
No.
Nope.
Nope.
Nothing will at this point.
Exactly.
I never will forget John Wooden when he was recruiting Lou Alcindor, and then Lou Alcindor was there, as a freshman. And he said, one of the things about every team is if you got different players on the team and you can't treat them all the same. Yeah. You got to be fair, but, you're going to put up with a little bit more from somebody than you would somebody else, and you're going to put a little more heat on somebody than you would somebody else. I mean, that's just part of coaching. That's part of management. That's part of motivating. That's part of being a parent. You got two different kids here. So I think that's the same way it is with the coach. Your players need to understand the rules, and you're going to go by and you're going to treat them fairly, but maybe not all the same. And in the case of let's look at what happened with Cox here. I mean, we did all we could, and the guy just – defied authority, and
perfect example.
And the end result, it didn't work out.
You just can't reach.
Yeah. Well, I like it. You have the same rules for everybody, but you don't treat everybody the same.
Right.
That's just in a nutshell. But I can tell you one place that will treat you better if you are a UGA fan. Check out our friends at Aaron Overhead Doors, AARON, Aaron Overhead Doors. They do fantastic work. 4.96 rating from the verified Nearby Now reviews. Online booking, free consultations, huge service area in all of Northeast Georgia. They do home, residential, commercial. So if you got a business, you need something done, you can also reach out to them. But the reason we bring them up is they're a big sponsor of UGASports.com, 27 cents a day. And Aaron Overhead Doors, made up from Georgia guys. So if you want to support someone who supports the Bulldogs, you hit them. The way they support you is if you were a Georgia fan, and you can lie about it, but that's between you and God, and if you lie, it's on you. If you lie about it, that's fine. They're still going to honor it. They will give you 10% off their services. Now, that can turn out to be a lot of money if you need a ton of work done. But even if it's just something simple, you're still going to get 10% off. So you call them up, say, hey, this is so-and-so. I need a new garage door. I need a garage door opener. I want that little button in my visor to actually match up with the opener, and I can't get it to work, The door sticks. The door squeals. You open it up, and trust me, if you haven't had those hinges greased up or the wheels and the little track, it sounds horrible. They can fix that for you, too. So you just let them know, hey, I need this done, and they'll just say, hey, oh, by the way, go Dogs. 10% off. Who the hell else does that? So if you get a chance, reach out to our friends at Aaron Overhead Doors. They will take care of you.
All right. We got I want to get into some rapid-fire questions here because we got a bunch today. But I want to touch on this one. We'll touch on this again at the end of the show. Phil Rogers says, will there be a special signing day show next Wednesday?
We'll have to decide on that.
I really doubt it is my thought. Primarily because we got to be on the road.
Well, I was thinking, how long would it take us all to get back here in time?
Yep.
So we've got a bunch of different places we need to be because
we may just put up a live stream of Jim Donnan's reaction to Georgia's new signees. I think that would be
solo.
Awesome.
Hey, who's going to set it up?
We'll send Dave over to you.
Jim Donnan eating hush puppies.
I'll do the solo as long as you guys go out and get Jones and Van Pran.
There you go. There you go. All right. Some rapid fire questions here. ZXBY140 over on the dog vent at UGASports.com says, how much influence has Todd Monken had on who we've targeted for the last 3 recruiting spots?
I doubt that he'd have much just because not that he certainly would have, but his knowledge of our recruiting class, he wasn't up there at Cleveland Browns breaking down these kids. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So I would think that more of his stuff would be getting to know the present squad, looking at that. But there might be, obviously, Mcconkey, he was probably shown that tape and said, do you like him, because he was on board there. But as far as the rest of them, there is one guy that makes that call, and he lives over there on Westwood,
Westview.
West Lake.
Yeah.
There. So went to school here, got a graduate degree, played defensive back, number 16, coached at Alabama, head coach here now.
Who are you talking about? I still don't get it.
Rowdy, this one for you. Does Buster Faulkner step up to an on-field coaching spot with Coley gone?
I don't think so.
All right. He also
the only thing I would say in Buster's defense, it's not because he's not worthy. I think he's certainly worthy, but I think knowing Kirby, when we had this situation a couple years ago, he brought in Hankton. He brought in actually a fifth offensive coach, on top of everybody, because to recruit and to coach receivers. I think the paramount thing that we're going to look at here is somebody with some really strong Florida ties, because that's some big shoes to fill. Now, University of Georgia has a lot to say about these kids coming out here, but anybody that knows anything about recruiting knows when I first started recruiting Miami and the both those counties there,
Broward and Dade.
Man, you would have thought I was from Russia. I mean, walking in there, because these coaches, you got to get, they're really, really critical about
the state of Miami is a real thing.
Sending their players off, you got to build up some trust with them and existing relationship. And the biggest thing that's going to help us, though, is we got players here that know what Kirby's all about. That'll help us a little bit, from a standpoint of get the kids in here, but you got to get them to visit. Like for example, last summer, I could not believe the number of Miami-based high schools that were here for our 7-on-7. I mean, how does that happen? I mean, Coley's over there introduced me all these high school coaches, and I knew some from before, but so that's going to be a big get for us, somebody that can at least keep us competitive down there, because you look at our roster and you look at this year's recruiting without what we took away from Florida, and Fountain did some good things there too,
sure.
With the guys he got. But I think it's, every coach can be replaced and everybody can be. But in this case, I think the number one issue to me would be a strong Florida-based recruiter. And they can coach another position, whatever position that might be. We got Buster here to help, and Buster knows Coach Monken through his association with being in the league with him. He coached at Middle Tennessee when the coach was at Southern Miss, and actually did a game when both of them were coaching Southern Miss versus Middle a few years ago. So he knows Monken, and that's good.
D. Foster here with a really interesting question, I think. He says, a solid defense returning to Athens. Who do you see coming in that will have the best chance for
solid defense?
Oh,
come on. You gave up a rushing touchdown twice to two quarterbacks.
He says,
led the nation in scoring defense.
Who do you see coming in
nothing against this question,
that will have the best chance for the most playing time on D, and why?
I think Carter, without question, is going to come in here and knock them naked.
I don't see any way that you keep that kid off the field. Think of Jordan.
He's going to knock some uniforms off.
Think of Jordan
and
Davis.
The guy's going to be exposed.
I've never heard that.
He will deliver some blows.
Oh, that's
and
awesome.
That's not putting the added pressure on him. But I just think, and I also think Ringo, as good as we are, I think Ringo is just an unbelievable talent that can come in here and get on the field pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is much more of an offensive class than defensive.
Needs to be. We got about 10 more defensive players.
No, that's what I'm saying. So I'm looking down the list, and the only two that really pop out to me based on where can you fit them in with that really solid. I mean, I was thinking maybe an inside linebacker, but we haven't seen hardly anything. And Kobe Dean, beside Kobe Rice beside Monty Rice, and you haven't seen Reion Davis behind him yet or Tresman Marshall. Those guys have learned the system.
Quay Walker.
So it's going to be tough for anybody to come in and crack that inside spot. The outside linebacker spots are kind of loaded. I think maybe D-line and maybe that rotating secondary guy are your only spots.
Sure. B. Workman here with an interesting one for you, Coach. He says, you've spoken very highly of Marshall Malco in the past. Are you concerned about a drop-off in talent evaluation and roster management in the short term, or has Marshall left behind a solid enough staff to maintain recent success?
Well, it concerns me just from the standpoint. Here's a guy that grew up with Kirby from the standpoint was a student, a lot like Schumann. He was a student assistant over there at Alabama. He learned the Alabama way. He went on his own a little bit out there to Boise and then to Louisville and up to Washington. Then came here. And, it's just like Roddy, you work for Roddy, you know what he wants. You know how to do what, you're going to go against the grain sometime, but he'll let you do it. But I think that's the thing. He knows evaluating what Kirby wants in a player. And I'm sure there's some other people that Kirby knows and that'll be valuable there. But, the proof's in the pudding. You got 3 top classes in a row here that and when we talk about evaluating, I talk about what Kirby has to do to decide who to take. Marshall is a big part of that too, because he's having to tell you in your area, hey, we got a better guy here, or we don't, and so, and it's just like anything. We'll be able to withstand anybody we lose. We've done that every time, but I thought he was a big cog in our success, and more power to him. The guy's from Georgia, and he's going out there to A&M. I don't know why he left, but I hate he left, but there's not anything else we can do about it except thank him for his service here, because he did a tremendous job. He did an unbelievable job here, evaluating talent, recruiting on campus, just the whole 9 yards.
Don't even think about it.
No, don't.
What's he going to say?
No. He thinks I want Marshall's job, which I do.
You'd be good. You'd be good.
He doesn't.
Call me. I will say, one of the biggest unsung heroes of this Georgia program under Kirby Smart. No question in my mind. We've got a question here about Jordan Burch. Is Georgia still recruiting Jordan Burch?
Going to LSU.
I think the answer is they'd love to recruit Jordan Burch. I think that ship sailed. LSU feels like the leader there right now. I think he either sticks with SC or goes to LSU.
How about Bo Pelini going there?
Good pickup for them. Not bad.
Bo
knows. He says, do we want Avante Williams?
We'll forget Bo Pelini. I was out visiting Switzer in 2007, getting ready for a national championship game. I think OU was playing Southern Cal or something like that. And in the same office, Bo Pelini, Brett Venables, and Mike Stoops. Mike Stoops at that point was at Arizona. They were in there on the board talking, about what they were going to try to do and all that. And I was thinking, boy, that's some pretty powerful defensive coaches in one room.
Yeah, that's a nice little melding of the minds
Bob
there.
Stoops too was, right there. But and then Pelini left and went to LSU for a little bit, and then to Nebraska, and did a great job at Nebraska. They haven't done nearly as good since he left.
I know. It's been very interesting to see.
You got to be careful what you're saying when there's hot mics around.
Yeah, definitely. Does Georgia want Avante Williams? Does he want to come? He canceled that official visit. I think that ship sailed. Look for Florida there with Avante Williams.
I think that was a case of evaluating who we had on the board, what his strengths were. You brought up Rakestraw, you brought up Williams, but now we've got the kid from Louisiana and we got the kid Bell, and you rate them, and Avante's, rated probably higher, but just the fact that we didn't go on him, to me, makes me feel like we felt like these other guys were better, because he certainly showed a lot of interest in us, right?
Yes, he did. And shout out to Avante, a kid I've gotten to meet a couple of times. Really nice kid.
There's nothing against him, but,
sure.
Unless he's a Gator.
It's going to be the same thing with Kamir. What was it? Kair what?
Elam, yeah.
Didn't he make like all conference as a freshman or something?
I think he did. Yeah, he had a really, really, really good start.
I mean, but you look at the guys we brought in. I mean, Stevenson and
Didn't Georgia run out of rooms for their safety down there in Florida towards the end 2 years ago?
God.
Yeah, that's right.
Love that guy. He was so hilarious in the camps and such.
I don't know, man.
What's the next question?
Get it up.
No. I think you got the answer over here to our next question.
Is this your pie?
It is.
This is your we
You're just over here. You're not even paying attention to what I'm saying. You're just
I'm not
scrolling
reading the site
Europie
either.
website.
I'm not reading the website. No, I'm checking out Europie because I'm big on the Europie rewards. Every time you go in, you have the little Europie app, and then you get the points for it. Then you get the free pizzas, and it's fantastic. But I'm not a keto guy.
Obviously.
Let's turn off that damn mic. No. That's funny. Your mic just stopped working. I don't know why, but somehow it just stopped. If you are doing keto, and a lot of people say, well, you can't have pizza and stuff like that, they actually have a crust over there now that is keto friendly that you can try that out. So if you're like, oh, well, I can't have your pie because it's not on my diet. Well, yeah, you can. They have salads for one thing, but they have fantastic sandwiches and stuff like that. But if you actually want to go get a fantastic salad, you can get a keto friendly one that's made, the crust is made with cauliflower and something else. Try that. See what you think. Let us know. 70-plus locations. There's one near you. If not, if there isn't one near you now, there will be because they're opening them up.
Or you build it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Stack your cash, homie.
Decide you want to be rich. Open up a couple Europie franchises. Reach out to our friends Drew and Natalie French. They will hook you up.
1501 Dog says, how likely is it Georgia finishes with the number one overall class? I don't think that will happen. I think that they'll finish top three, probably sit about where they are. I don't think any of the guys that they're looking at this point, outside of maybe,
Bayesian Edwards.
Bayesian
is the only one who can bump them up.
Right.
The way it stands right now, you've got they only count your top 20. Georgia has 21 commits. They're counting 2 3-stars in that. So the only way to get up is to replace one of those 3 stars with a 4-star or a 5-star. The only 4-star that they're looking at right now is Bayesian Edwards. Now, if they were to get Zack Evans, that would put him up, probably could move him to the top. But
I think so.
If without him coming in, the best chance you have is signing Edwards, and that moves you up a little bit. But here's the thing: Clemson, Alabama, and Georgia and LSU are neck and neck and neck and neck. I mean, it's really, really tight.
The 3,000-point class, that's the golden goose, really. And for those of you who don't follow it, there's a point system that goes along with the recruiting rankings. 3,000 is that's
elite.
That's elite. And Georgia, I think, going to close right at, well, what are they?
2972.
Okay, 2972.
And Alabama's 3,010, and Clemson's 3,036.
There you go.
You're 30, 40 points behind these other 2 schools. LSU with this fantastic class is like almost 80 behind you. By the time you get to Ohio State, you're in the 2700s, and they're 5th. So this is an elite class where you're splitting hairs as to who has number 1. In other words, with this class, you should win titles.
I agree.
But then so should Alabama, and so should Clemson. So that's when I guarantee you will see Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State, LSU in that playoffs again, just because that's where the best players are.
Dog Darren here with a good one. He says, who do you expect to step up among the 4 signed wide receivers? Burton, Smith, Robinson, or Roseman? And I guess let's go ahead and throw Mcconkey in there in case he goes ahead and pulls the trigger. Any leaning on any of those guys? Anybody that strikes you right off the bat?
I'm going to say Roseman just because you like him so much.
I'll
steal your idea.
I think that he replaces what you lost, like I said, in Riley Ridley a couple years back. Holloman, he's that big-bodied guy, very solid hands. Going to do a lot of good things for you.
Yeah, I like Burton just because of everything that he's done on the level he's played. A lot of different schools. He's been trained well. He worked over there with Terrence Edwards. But I like Rosemy too, and certainly Robinson. I had a chance to watch him a little bit. He just come off the state championship, but he was over there. He's a long, athletic-looking guy that will definitely benefit from being around here in spring practice. And certainly Smith, you just can't get that kind of speed. So it's an outstanding, reminds me a lot of that class where we had Darrell Robinson, Brown, Terrence Edwards, some really good players in one class receiver-wise.
I like this one for Coach. Let me find it here. Oh,
One thing about your pie, since you cut me off, but the pasta there,
Yes.
people don't realize you can order your kind of pasta, whatever you want, and have pasta on it, or you can get one like Nan's favorite, or they're just stronger than Aunt Mary's breath.
you've been. I know you've been floating over here to this your pie.
Yeah, I go by there. I'm just telling you that's good stuff.
Just John 419 over on the vault at UGASports.com says, how hard is it for a major SEC program to rebuild an offense with a new transfer quarterback, new OC and system, new tight ends, new starting running back, and a rebuilt offensive line?
It's not mission impossible. It's certainly a different situation than we've had because we've had so many guys move up within the program, whether it be coaches or players. But it's going to be a little bit. But it's going to be challenging, but it's going to be fun, too, because everybody's starting out on the same page. They're not going to have to retrain the quarterback to learn a new system. He's going to learn the system that they're bringing in, and he's starting the same as the receivers. They're going to have to learn how Coach Monken's terminology and all. I would think that what I've seen from him, that we'll do a lot of speed stuff, a lot of quick stuff, and with that, the terminology is not that difficult, but we'll see. But it's certainly going to be taxing with our early schedule, having to play Virginia, who's a good team, over there in Atlanta, and then right off the bat going over to play in Tuscaloosa. But I do feel like I used to always think about at Oklahoma when I was worried about us playing, I knew that our defense was going on the trip too. And our defense is, athletic. I know when you look at some of the stats, it's just overwhelming to me, the number of players that we played and the way they played builds morale, builds competition, builds depth. The number of different red zone stops we had to show that we were improved so dramatically from one year to the next as far as challenging our defense to keep them out of the end zone, and kick field goals or get turnovers. Just a stark improvement on our defense from one year to the next. And I just think the front that we're going to deploy next year is some of these younger guys that are really going to step in there and just be really good. So that my answer is going to be a little bit difficult, but it's going to help them going against our defense all spring too. They're going to have to grow up quickly.
I will say, too, you mentioned that Virginia game. To me, that seems like a great start to your season for these new guys. That's a talented team, not a dominant team, I wouldn't say. But you're going to get a real feel, I think, for what you got coming down the pipe.
You saw Virginia have a really good year, one of the best years ever. They finally beat Virginia Tech after like 16 or 17 straight. They finally beat them and then basically got destroyed by Clemson and then got pulverized in the bowl game by Florida. So we'll just have to see. But it's a challenging game, but it's not like starting out with Austin Peay or
yes,
nothing against Austin Peay. But I think it's just going to be get everybody's attention. That's what Kirby likes. You're going to talk to them about, hey, we're playing on a national stage. Everybody's going to be watching the game. It's over there in Atlanta, and it's basically a home game for us. But it's a good opponent.
I like it. I also like the idea of this weekend when you're watching the Super Bowl, you swing by Champions here or go by Academia Brewing Company. Check out our friends over there. They have some fantastic beers over there. They just did create a new one from southern Germany that you'll like. It's one of a beer you can just have all day long. Oh, yeah.
What's the name?
I don't remember it. Just remember the description of it. I was like, oh, I got to have that. I'm going to walk in and go, give me that Southern German beer, because they have such fantastic names for their beer. I can't keep up with them. They're very bright over there. The whole, I get it, Academia Brewing Company. So we get a chance. Too many puns, though. I'm going to have to go over there and talk to them about the puns. Not a big fan of all the puns. We got an issue there. But if
you got the pun master here, too. Dave McMahon.
Dave.
Yes.
But, Dave's with his puns, and that's why I try to run him over every time I see him. But you get a chance, swing out by Academia Brewing Company, because they're going to have this game up on the giant screens. They're going to have great food prepared by an actual in-house chef. So, and if you don't want to just sit at the table the whole time, they have the couches where you can sit, in the lounge over there. So get a chance if you want to watch the game or watch any game. Come into town, you don't want to go catch a basketball game, you can catch it out there. Any of the stuff that's going on, do so from Academia Brewing Company. They will take great care of you. Fantastic service, fantastic beer, and fantastic food. And again, Georgia graduates who are there to they take care of us. They contribute to the program. They take care of the community. They do much of charity work. So you would be supporting Georgia grads when you go out there.
And you usually don't get that kind of food at a beer place.
No question.
You don't get that kind of food at most restaurants.
Right.
I mean,
Absolutely.
I'm just telling you, we call it Academic Brewing Company, but it is just a damn good, fantastic restaurant. So
Absolutely.
it just happens to have some of the best beer you'll ever have.
All right, looking ahead to next week, what are you most excited for signing day, Roddy?
For it to be over? That's
what I say every year.
I want to see the tweet from UGA that Broderick Jones is officially signed with UGA. I also want to see the one that says Cedric Van Pran, the nation's #1 center, is signed. On that one day, you could get the nation's #1 offensive tackle, the nation's #1 center, to go along with the nation's #2 offensive tackle and Tate Radlich. They're already here. You give those guys to Matt Luke and the excitement that he has about this program, and just the excitement that he has, and a new offensive coordinator, that goes a long way into replacing the 4 guys you lost this year. You need those big hogs in there. Offensive and defensive linemen are always, you work inside out. So I want to see those 2 tweets come in, and then I want to see the other guys, see where Georgia goes with it. I'd also like to see an end. The reason I say it, I'd like to see an end of the
Zach
Evans thing. I see there's a
We're getting an autobiography here. I mean,
there's a
what do you like to see?
Well,
I see. Go ahead. That's good. Keep on going.
We see that Dell McGee was in Texas recently. Did he go by and see Evans? We don't know. I'd be happy for that to move on.
Yes.
And then all the focus to go to the 2021 kids. I don't think people realize how big a class, the potential this 2021 class has. So
some good, great players.
Who's a junior back there in Houston that we're looking at? Do you know?
I'd have to take a look at the scholarship list. Which
you don't have it memorized?
Did you see that Hartley and Coach Munkin were out in Iowa last night watching that tight end?
Yeah, that young tight end.
And you can't even talk to him. He's junior, and Hartley was there last week.
Go sit and chill.
And Jim Harbaugh was there.
Give him a little wave.
Jim Harbaugh.
Garland, Texas. You got Kamar Wheaton.
Garland's in near Dallas.
And then Shadrack Banks is a kid in Houston. He's a wide receiver though. So there's always talent out there.
Get to Texas as much as you can.
How about you, Coach? What you looking for next week?
I think it's certainly big recruiting day and all, but the thing that always kind of grinds my gears, you get so fired up about guys, and then what happens down the road? 2 years ago we had 4 or 5-star guys that aren't even here now.
Yeah,
very true.
And so I'm just fired up about the players we got on our team, their effort, what we got as a young team offensively, the defense we got coming back. We're going to have to see who can establish himself at place kicker, but I just think that we got a chance to really have a big year. And recruiting-wise, we've done really well, but I don't get quite as fired up about the recruits as I do the players we got.
I completely understand that. I'm most looking.
That's no knock on the 4 guys we lost, but I mean, it just goes to show you get to, you know what I mean?
Sure. I'm most looking forward to finding out who this last defensive back is going to be. Mostly because I like both of those kids. I think Branch is a very long, interesting kid back there, developmental prospect, but you don't need him right away. And then I really like what I've seen from Bell. I think that'll be an interesting one.
Yeah, I mean, the guy's Charles Bell the 6th.
Yeah, I love that. I love that.
I like that. Ring the bell.
Yeah. So that's the thing I'm most excited to. And then obviously, do you land Broderick Jones? And I still feel confident about that.
Yeah, well, you went out on a limb, so.
That was good. You picked that up. What'd you do? Just luck into it.
Always.
We're gonna
I mean,
if you're wrong, we're firing you.
You were checking out. What were you checking out some kids up there?
Every day, this is my life.
You're checking out some kids up there in Maryland and found out that this kid was there. Or?
Oh yeah, Charles Bell. Yeah, absolutely. He plays at Quince Orchard, like I said.
Right. You read the site to find out about stuff.
They got 3 or 4 kids for 2021, which also I think makes Bell very attractive.
Is that in D.C. area? Well,
Charles Bell. Yeah. Gaithersburg.
Charles
I had a
Bell
kid
the
one time named Bell. And not Kendrell Bell, but another kid, and he just came up, and we had this coverage where he was supposed to play, and we might just call it Alabama or whatever, and he just came up and just crushed this kid, and so I went running up to him because I didn't really know that he was. I said, "What do you got? What do you got?" Because I thought he was going to tell me the right coverage. He said, "Coach, I got a headache."
Poor kid. I bet
Then
I got a concussion.
Then I had another kid, that same team, and I said, "You gotta hit him with your inside forearm. You just losing leverage. You got to hit him with your inside forearm." He said, "Coach, is that the right one or the left one?" So you never know what these guys are thinking.
That's true, no doubt, no doubt. All right.
Little levity
on
here,
that one, let's go ahead and hang it up for this week. Shout out to all of our sponsors.
Athens Ford, Aaron Overhead Doors, Europie, Academia Brewing Company, and 365 Game Day, of course, Champions on Baxter, and our corporate partners, 11 Alive News. You going to do a sports extra this week?
I don't know. I'm not sure, to be honest with you. I was supposed to go on last week, but after the Kobe Bryant thing, they switched up the thing. So, R.I.P. Kobe.
I was thinking it would be
What's this question from David Lever?
Yeah. UGASports.com. Get on there. We're going to be we've been full bore for
I might even
signing
go read
day.
I might even go read some stories now.
But signing day next Wednesday. Make sure you're on there following along. We'll have you covered on everything.
All right, take care.